Today we're going to be talking about Nelson Mandela, and it's by Kayla Hollis, Robin Lashley, and Joshua Carrillo. So, early life, Nelson Mandela was born in 1918. His father was a chief counselor to the king of the Tembu, a branch of the Nosa. Mandela studied at the Africans-only University of Fort Hare. It was a college that had a well-deserved reputation as a hotbed of political activism. After fleeing his home in Kunu at the prospect of an arranged marriage in 1941, he then met Walter Sisulu on his arrival to Johannesburg. And so this was the start of these were start of his political journeys and acts that he was going to embark on in the future in his life. Sisulu introduced Mandela to a firm of attorneys where he began work while studying to obtain his legal articles. So this pathway of the legal system, him becoming a lawyer and attorney, it was going to help him shape himself into the political figure, knowing the law and knowing how to defend and to go against the law as well. He then was involved in cases where he helped defend black people who had fallen foul of the country's segregation laws. And here we see on these two pictures right here, they're younger pictures of Mandela. And we see right here, he looks like he's carrying the passbook. He's ready to burn it. So we're going to go to the ANC, and Mandela joined the ANC in 1944. He formed the ANC Youth League along with Sisulu and his early political mentor, the Africanist Anton Lembede. So he was his political mentor. He really helped them know how to get into politics, how to drive the political system into like a protest movement that he would later do and later on with the ANC. He argued that the authorities' suppression of the 1946 miners' strike and the menacing emergence of radical Afrikaner nationalism justified a more assertive strategy of non-cooperation and mass action. Following the NP election victory in 1948, Mandela was a key figure in persuading the party's leaders to adopt the Youth League's radical program of action. Mandela was elected to the National Executive Committee of the ANC in late 1949 and appointed president of the Youth League in 1950. So this was a turning point. This is where he would get into power, positions of power, and gave him higher status for these movements. Mandela helped turn the program of action into political reality through his role in the Defiance campaign in 1952. Let me see right here, the symbol of the ANC. This is Mandela after prison, and we're going to talk about that right now in a little bit, but this is after he was out of prison. He was representing the ANC. So the Defiance campaign started in 1952, and Mandela, he was nominated as the National Volunteer-in-Chief. Mandela, he was arrested and banned for 6 months. He believed in creating a common front against apartheid with other groups. So this was really the form of protest that really, it was a turning point, because there were protests beforehand, but this protest was really something that Mandela used in a more radical way. He wanted to unite groups against apartheid, but he went through those lengths where he was arrested, he was banned, and yeah. So we see right here in these crowds of people, the rallies that were created, and Mandela was a part of, and then Mandela dealing with some leaders right here. Mandela set up a law firm, the first black law firm of South Africa in Johannesburg, in a partnership with Oliver Tambo. Mandela was known as an Africanist influenced by Lembede, and he was a vocal opponent of communism in the ANC. So communism, it was a group that was in ties with the the ANC and various Africanist groups, but the communism it went against those ideals that Mandela was looking for. So the Defiance campaign again continues on. He opposed the May Day stay-at-home strike of 1950. So that was a strike where African workers, didn't go to work as a way like of boycotting their work to show that they were needed, that their businesses could fall without their involvement. But Mandela was against it. He argued that blacks should organize their own protests and strikes rather than working with communists. So he made that a priority. He said that people should be out and not stay at home. And to be more active, he didn't believe that the May Day stay-at-home strike was going to be effective. Their involvement with leading communists such as Cotain, Yusuf Dadoo, and J.B. Marx, Mandela believed in a non-racial approach with his politics. Mandela's politics began to swing to the left, so he was more liberal. He was thinking about equality and in ending apartheid in a radical way. So up to his arrest, he was in the treason trials after being arrested for his radical actions against the government. He was one of the principal defendants. The treason trials were long-running. They began in 1856 and lasted 5 years before his eventual acquittal in 1962. And during that time, he was a dominant figure in the ANC. Following the collapse of the treason trial in March 1961, Mandela knew that the government would seek to arrest him immediately. So in 63 and 64, Mandela was brought into the famous Ravanya trial. Mandela and all his comrades, his group, they disappeared from the political scene for the next 27 years. And the reason why the 27 years, this was the time when they were all put in prison, and they were in prison for 27 years. That's why you wouldn't hear about Mandela or any of his group. And you could see right here in this picture, this is a picture of Mandela revisiting his jail cell and on Robben Island, I believe. And it was a point where his arrest became something of a symbol, like to inspire and keep ANC and protest groups going. And you see right here all the people part of the treason trial that were involved. And yeah, Mandela, he became that figure to drive it. And the end of apartheid, Mandela's immense contributions, he was instrumental in uniting South Africans of all races in the struggle against apartheid through his advocacy of the COP. Late 1940s revitalized the party through his activism, led the light of the Defiance campaign, led armed campaign of the MK. So all acts ensured that the focus of the world remained on the iniquities of apartheid South Africa in the same years following the Sharpeville massacre. So his legacy was to end apartheid, to bring equality, to unite the South African people to gain that freedom. And that's exactly what he did through various protests and after being arrested. Through his time in prison, he turned to non-radical ways. He instead of continuing his radical ways after prison, he changed and wanted that peaceful protests, and that's what helped him and the ANC and everybody be able to gain that freedom and end apartheid.